everybody. So glad that we get to do this together. It's fun. So first of all, I think that Bo sent out a list of ingredients and some measurements, but I realized that that might be too small after I saw a picture of the bag of noodles that Pam was buying. It was actually 5 servings, so I decided we should probably double the sauce recipe, and you could always use it for other stuff because it's really good on other noodles, even meats and salads and things. So you can make the sauce and put it in a jar, and it'll keep really well in the fridge for at least 2 weeks. So we're gonna double it today. And remember that a lot of the ingredients that we're using are agricultural products. So even the gochujang that you get from the store, depending on the brand, the saltiness is going to vary, the spicy level is going to vary. So cooking is kind of like an art. It's not a science. And you can change the measurements to really suit your family's taste. If you have children, and if you want a little bit less sweet or salty or hot, you can adjust it to your taste. So the measurements that we're going to talk about today are basically doubled what Bo sent out, and then from there you can adjust up or down on saltiness, the sourness, and the sweetness. Even the garlic you can adjust. Some people don't like raw garlic. I love it, so I put a big dollop of it, but you can adjust all of that. It's a very, very forgiving recipe. Okay, so we're going to go through the ingredients list first. So we have, make sure you have red pepper, and you can usually buy this at almost any Korean grocery store or Asian grocery store. And I use usually organic sugar from Costco. And if you look on recipe lists or different cooking, or even at restaurants, they don't use sugar for this recipe. They use a corn syrup, and they might call it oligodang or something like this. I just bought one so you can see it. So when you see it on an ingredients list, this is basically corn syrup. And so I don't like to use corn syrup, but I will tell you almost all restaurants and the prepared sauces that you buy will actually use corn syrup because it has a slightly sweeter taste, and it also gives it that shiny look after you make it. And it's more goopy and syrupy because it is corn syrup, but I don't use it. If you like it, you can go ahead, but I usually don't use corn syrup. So I use organic sugar. And then I've got garlic, minced garlic, and sesame seeds, toasted sesame seeds. And I have the mixed kind of brown and black just because it looks pretty, but you can use any kind of sesame seeds. And then we have vinegar. And again, vinegar, if you buy it at different stores, especially Asian stores, they have different levels of acidity. Generally speaking, the vinegar that you buy at a regular grocery store, I think has 4 to 5% acidity, but you can get up to 8 or 9. So the double the acidity level vinegars are available, and sometimes I use that. So again, measurements will depend on the level of acidity in your vinegar. And
Dorothy? Oh, we have a question.
Yes.
Jean was asking, can you use mirin instead?
You don't use mirin. You could. Mirin, it does not have the sweetness, and usually I don't use mirin in here. I use mirin when I put meat or egg because it gets rid of that kind of meaty, kind of smelly, fishy smell, but I don't think you need that in here. And sesame oil is a must. You have to have that. And then soy sauce. Now, I see a hand on Pamela's screen. Is that a hand or a question?
Yes, go ahead.
What brand of vinegar do you use then, or do you usually buy?
For the Jjoylmyun, I just used any kind of American vinegar, because if you use the double acidity vinegar in here, you actually end up having to add more water. So just might as well use the regular vinegar, but I say use whatever you have and just.
Sorry, what is that? What's
kind of vinegar you use. so you can increase or decrease the measurement.
Distilled white vinegar.
Yep,
Okay.
that's what I got. Just plain white old vinegar. And soy sauce also, there are like, I would say 20, 30 different kinds of soy sauce when you go to an Asian grocery store. Some are for soups, some are for making vegetables, some are for making Jjoylmyun, you know, the condense it down like tofu and potatoes and things. This is just plain by Jjoylmyun soy sauce. So it's a little bit sweeter. It has a little bit more umami flavor than the soup soy sauce. So depending on the type of soy sauce that you use, you'll also have to use different amount because the soup soy sauce is very salty. So it's lighter in color, but it has more saltiness. This is darker in color, but not as salty. So also for those of you who don't want to have as much sodium, you can cut down the soy sauce or use low sodium soy sauce.
Hey, Dorothy?
Yeah.
Would you recommend doing the sauce on the side? You know what I mean? Mixing it and then mix the noodles to it?
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna do separate sauce first, and then you can add as little or much sauce as you want. Okay, and then the most important ingredient is gochujang. And I have two here that I'm gonna show you because also gochujang comes in different spice levels. So this one is the, I would say, traditional, regular kind of spiciness. And this one, if you can read Korean, it says 매운 gochujang. So you can say 태양초 매운 gochujang. So it's actually spicier in terms of heat than your regular gochujang. And there's also a kind that has even lower spiciness than this one. And it's called 안 매운 gochujang. So there are all different kinds that you can pick to suit your family's taste. So when I make it for church, some people always say, well, can you make it spicier? Some people like Ellen say, why do you make it so spicy? I can't eat it. So what I end up doing is actually going 50-50 of this and this. So it's probably a little bit more spicy than your regular, but not as spicy as just using the hot one. Okay, so you can, like I said, if you can't read it, it's mostly, a lot of it is translated, but on this one, I noticed that it didn't say that it was extra spicy, but you can ask at the store and they'll tell you which one it is, okay? So before we get started, we're gonna put the water on the stove and turn it on. And if you want, you can put some eggs in there and start boiling. Because one of the common toppings for this noodle is eggs. And you can either have hard-boiled eggs or you can fry it thin and then slice it. So I kind of did both.
How many eggs did you want us to boil?
Well, it depends on how many you're cooking for. So like for your whole family, Pam, maybe I do 5. And I usually, you can do hard boiled, but I like kind of soft boiled eggs. So I do 6-minute eggs. So these are 6-minute eggs that I boiled and peeled. But, and also this is just 2 eggs that I put on a fry pan and just made it thin and then sliced it. So you can put either kind of egg or you can put both. So I'm gonna turn my water on. So we get the water boiling for the noodles. So let's first just get the noodles prepped. And I bought a small package because last week I bought a big one, enough for 5, and then I cooked it and it was a lot. And so I shared it with a friend. So this one is for 2 people. So it comes in a small package like this. I think Pam bought a big one, enough for 5 people. So let's open the package, and it's usually always in the freezer section. And if you see it in the refrigerated section, I would be careful because it might be old. So when you open it up, they come in different lengths. And some are usually folded in 3s. Some are folded, this one is folded twice. So because I don't like super long noodles because it's hard to eat, what I'll do is I'll gently pull it out without separating it, hold it, and then take my scissors, and then I just kind of go in there and then split it so that it's about half the length. And if you like long noodles, you don't have to cut it. I just do it because it's easier to eat. And when we do it at church, we actually cut it into thirds because kids, when they're pulling out the noodles from the pan, all the vegetables get everywhere. So we usually cut it in thirds at church, but when I do it at home, I just cut it into half. So it's still long. So this is the length of the cut noodle, but it's not so long that you have to pull it way up. I'm gonna put the cut noodles here and we'll set it by the stove and wait for the water to boil, okay? Everybody, Pam, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, next we're gonna chop the vegetables. And when I cut the vegetables, I'll just put it in a big bowl. That's where I'm gonna mix all the noodles and the vegetables together. So we'll just cut the vegetables, and in the vegetables, when you buy Jjoylmyun at a restaurant in Korea, they always have bean sprouts. I don't like to use bean sprouts because it's kind of a polarizing flavor. Some people love it, some people don't. So when we do it at church, we don't put bean sprouts, but you definitely can use bean sprouts. These are not the mung bean sprouts, it's the soybean sprouts, the long ones with the yellow head. So if you are gonna use bean sprouts, what I would do is boil the bean sprouts in the water that you're boiling for the noodle for about 3 to 4 minutes, depending on how tender you like your bean sprouts. 3 or 4 minutes, don't throw away the water. So you just take the bean sprouts out and wash it in cold water and put it in a colander and wait for the other stuff to get done. We're not gonna do bean sprouts because we never put that in when we cook it for church, but I just want to let you know that is one of the primary vegetables that restaurants will put into their Jjoylmyun. So today we're just gonna use cabbage, and I just have white plain cabbage, but you can use red cabbage, you can even use napa cabbage, but this is just American white cabbage. And a carrot, English cucumber, and some pickled radish. This comes in yellow or white. You can use either. Some people don't like the yellow food coloring, so they'll use white pickled radish, which is fine. And if you got the regular cucumber, the American cucumber, it's okay. You just have to take the seeds out because the seeds in those cucumbers are just too chewy and too big. So you can split it in half and scoop out the seeds. So I got an English cucumber. So we're just gonna slice our vegetables. And I have my knife. So in terms of the cabbage, just cut it into 4s and take the solid head piece out. And you can slice it anyway. You want to get it thin, but kind of long like the noodles. So the theory is if you're cooking something, the vegetables and the fruits, whatever you're putting in there, should be similar kind of length and size. So when you're grabbing it, it's easy to eat together. So the cabbage, I just have quartered and took the core out. And I'm just gonna grab it. I'm gonna slice it kind of long, like this. Can you see? But it's thin. It's pretty thin. You don't want it too thin because if the noodle's sitting there, the vegetables are gonna disappear, it'll disintegrate. So it has a little bit of a depth to it, but not too much because you want it to be soft and be able to eat it with ease. Do you see the size? And then I just flip it over when I get to this point, and then we're just gonna chop it.
Dorothy, what ratio do you usually do the vegetables, and do you do like equal part like cabbage or something? You know what I mean? Or do you?
Probably I do the most cabbage and cucumbers, and less of the radish and carrots. And the thing is, if you don't like any of these vegetables, you don't have to put these. You can put any vegetables that you like, but traditionally it's like I said, bean sprouts, cabbage, cucumber, and carrots. So this is a quarter of a medium-sized head cabbage, which will be just perfect, I think, for 2 servings. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in the bowl. And next we're gonna do the cucumber. And again, Julian's cut the cucumbers, and so we're gonna go long way here. And cucumbers, you don't want it super thin because it'll lose all of the moisture into the noodles and you won't be able to see it. So I'm gonna use about half of the cucumber for 2 portions. And so it's about, what is that? Is that like a 1/8 inch? And so I've cut it diagonally so it has kind of length to match the cabbage and the noodles. And then you line them up. I just like to eat the ends. And you're just gonna slice it. And you're making little strips like that.
Dorothy, you might have to give us a little time on this because I'm slow.
Okay, take your time. So I'm using, like I said, about half of an English cucumber for 2 portions. And now I'm just gonna cut the rest of the cucumbers. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's all gonna taste great. But the idea is you want it kind of long strips like the size of your cabbage. And so it'll be, when you grab the noodles, it'll come up with the noodles. See, like that. So it's not super, super thin. It's not a shred. It's more like a matchstick size. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in the bowl. And you can see that the bowl is now getting filled with vegetables. So take your time. So I used a quarter head of medium-sized cabbage and about half of an English cucumber. And I've got a carrot here, which I haven't peeled yet. And I do like to peel my carrots. Some people don't. You don't have to. But, carrots, I don't know. I just feel it's an organic carrot, but I'm still going to peel it. Already been washed. I'm making a mess here, but that's okay. Okay, so I've got 1 carrot, and I think that for when you're cutting matchsticks for carrots, you can grate it, but it just looks messier because it's not pretty when you grate a carrot in that, the grater box. So I like to slice it. And when you're slicing a carrot, it's always easier when you have a fat carrot instead of a skinny carrot. So I buy the kind of the fatter carrots that they sell in the stores. And the carrot should be the thinnest of all vegetables when you slice it because it is the hardest in terms of it's very solid. So if it's too thick, it's hard to chew with the noodles. So the carrot should be sliced very thin, whereas the cucumber should be sliced a little bit thicker. Okay, so we're gonna take the carrot, and again, just like the cucumber, we're gonna do it in a diagonal first and get the flat pieces before we actually cut it into matchsticks. So you wanna get it as thin as possible. And it's super thin, you can almost kind of see through it. But if you can't get it that thin, don't worry about it. And I'm gonna use probably about 1/3 of the carrot big fat carrot that I had. But you can adjust the amount, like I said, to the kinds of vegetables that you like. I always eat the ends because the end is rounded and it doesn't lay flat. And when you try to cut it, you can cut your finger. So just eat the ends. And then now we're going to take the carrot and we're gonna do very, very thin. Not like the cucumber and the cabbage, but the carrot is being sliced very, very thin as you can get it. Once you get the flat pieces, see, this is very thin. And take your time. And if you don't like carrots and you don't like the sliced carrots, you don't need it.
Dorothy, all my carrots are fatties.
Fatties, that's okay. Fatties are okay. You just have to chew a little bit more.
They match the owner, it's okay.
These are kind of thin. And if they're fat, just eat the fat pieces, Bo. Like this one's kind of fat, so I'm just gonna eat it. So put the carrot in the bowl, and the bowl is getting prettier. And then the last vegetable that we have is the pickled radish. And if you bought the white one, that's great. Yellow one, they all taste about the same. Some of them are a little bit saltier. So when I buy it, I'll cut out the end and I'll eat it, taste it. But if it's too salty, you can leave it in like a bath water for a few hours and the saltiness will come out. Because what we're looking for here is mostly kind of the crunchy chew, a little bit of the sweet and salty, but if it's too salty, then it's not gonna taste good. I'm gonna turn down my water because it's already boiling. So I'm gonna turn it down to low. But if you haven't cooked your egg, you can stick it in there and cook it right now. So I'm gonna cut I should be looking up at the camera. Sorry, I was looking at the screen. We're gonna cut the pickled radish. And for just the 2 portion that I'm making, all I need is probably a chunk this size. And a really good way, again, of cutting, because this is kind of squishy and it's soft, and sometimes it's hard to cut. I think the easiest way to cut it is to cut it into the length that you want. When you buy it, cut it into the length that you want. And then when you start slicing it, I take, again, you want to make this pretty thin. It doesn't have to be thin as the carrot, but I take a couple pieces off one side and lay it down flat so it doesn't roll around. And then start getting slices, thin slices. And if it's fat, well, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But it's pretty thin.
All of mine are fat.
It's okay. They'll all still taste the same. It's just chewier and crunchier. But I like my radish a little bit thin because if you just get a big mouthful of it, then the taste, the balance is off. So you just kind of line it up like that and then start again slicing it into thin strips like that. So for 2 servings, I'm using a little chunk that was maybe like what, 1.5 inches, 2 inches long of a medium-sized pickled radish. And if you don't like pickled radish, you can skip it also. This is very, very old style pickled radish. A lot of the new, I guess, recipes or restaurants that do Jjoylmyun, they don't use pickled radish anymore. This is from the old school. And we're old school. So there we have strips. So I'm gonna put that into my bowl. And so if you look, we have a pretty bowl of cabbage, carrots, cucumber, and pickled radish. And if you like red peppers, that's really pretty to put in there. You know, the sweet red peppers, again, strip it. Cut it into julienne strips and put it in. It can be really pretty. But again, we don't put it in when we do church because kind of a polarizing taste. Some people hate pepper, some people love pepper, so we just don't put it in. So now we have all the vegetables. Okay? How are you doing, Bo?
I'm eating all my misshapen vegetables.
Yeah, I always eat all the ends. I eat the ends of all the vegetables as I'm cooking it. So I'm gonna put my vegetable tray off to the side. Should we move to the sauce or should we give you a couple more minutes?
We're
How's
ready.
everybody doing?
We're ready for the sauce. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry.
Not
That's.
ready.
I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time Julian the soft move.
Yeah, that's kind of, it's squishy and it's kind of tricky to do. So take your time. Don't cut your finger.
Jay asked for a mandolin. I told her no.
Don't use a mandolin, it's a death trap.
You'll lose your finger.
I've literally mandolined off the tip of my finger at a baby shower. It was awful.
Dorothy, can I put the noodles in?
Don't do it yet.
Okay.
But don't forget your egg.
I already got it.
Let's do the sauce first and then we'll do the noodles very last. Even at church when we do Jjoylmyun, I don't pre-boil the noodles. I come down probably like 20 or 30 minutes before worship ends. So we have the water boiling and then I'll come down 20, 30 minutes before and then throw the noodles in and literally it'll cook in like 3 minutes. Okay, and we dump it out, we wash it, and then we mix everything. So just in time for the folks to come down. Because the thing about Jjoylmyun is that if it sits for a long time, it's just no good. Because the noodle will go mushy, it's just gonna get gloppy and all the vegetables lose water and it doesn't taste good. So that's one of those things that you wanna make pretty fresh. You can have everything ready. You can have all your vegetables chopped and in the fridge. You can have your sauce made and in the fridge, eggs and everything prepared, all the toppings. And if you're making it for your family or having company over, you just boil the noodles right at the last minute, which only takes, like I said, 3 minutes, and then wash it and mix it all together and eat it right away. If you're not gonna eat it right away and you're making this, I would not use the Jjoylmyun noodle. I would use different noodles. You can use, the regular, kind of the thicker soba noodle, or I have this acorn noodle, which I love. It doesn't go blobby and gloppy as fast as the Jjoylmyun noodle. So Jjoylmyun noodle really should be eaten that day and as soon as possible after you make it. Is Jay done with her radish?
Yeah, we have a question about the acorn noodles. She was like, I didn't even know we could even eat acorns.
Oh, acorn, I get it from my friend. So you're right, you can't buy it. You can't buy it in the store, but it's one of my favorite noodles because it's so healthy for you and it's all, so no, you can't buy it at the store. But you can buy the buckwheat noodles, you can buy different noodles in the grocery store. So Jjoylmyun really is for immediate consumption. Okay, should we get to the sauce?
Well, how does it go if you use like whole wheat thin spaghetti noodles? Does that?
You can use spaghetti noodles, and spaghetti noodles will probably not go as gloppy as the Jjoylmyun noodles. The angel hair pasta noodles or even regular spaghetti noodles. But again, you don't want to keep that around too long. You want to mix this up pretty soon before you eat it. You can have all the ingredients ready, just don't mix it up until you're ready to eat it.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, so for the sauce, since we're going to double the sauce, I got kind of a medium-sized soup bowl here. I'm gonna mix it in here. So we're gonna get 1/4 cup of the red pepper powder. 1/4 cup. Okay. And I'll give Bo the updated measurements because it's a little bit different. Again, because I was using different sauces, but it's close enough. But 1/4 cup red pepper powder, I'm dumping it in the bowl. I've got a 1/4 cup of my sugar. Now you can substitute honey. Again, you can use this corn syrup if you like that glossy look, you know, really glossy, kind of sticky, kind of a feel. The mouth feel when you use this is definitely different than when you just use sugar. But again, because I don't like to use fructose corn syrup, I just use organic brown sugar. Well, it's not brown sugar, it's regular sugar. So I'm putting in a 1/4 cup of sugar. Okay, I've got a tablespoon of minced garlic. And I'm going to use this regular spiciness gochujang because Keith and I are going to eat it together after we're done, so I don't want to burn his lips off, so I'm going to use the regular. But if I were eating it by myself, I would use this one because it has just enough spice. It's not super spicy, but it's definitely spicier than this one. We're going to measure out about 1/2 cup, and again, this is not science. And they all taste different anyway, so you're gonna have to taste as you go. And when I buy the gochujang, I always put this, leave this on here, the plastic cover.
Dorothy, are you doubling the recipe now, or are you just?
Yes, this is.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, because if you take this off and store it in the fridge, it dries out. And so if you leave this on here, because they usually have the preservative or kind of the thing that keeps it moist in here. So just when you peel it and use it, I always just leave this on, and then when I put in the fridge, just cover the lid and you can store it for longer. We're gonna put 1/2 cup of the gochujang that you have. You can use spicy or regular, okay? Got my 1/2 cup. I always buy my garu when I go to Korea because the garu in Korea I think tastes better and it's sun-dried instead of machine-dried. So I've measured 1/2 cup and I'm gonna dump that in here.
I do too, Dorothy. My mom buys me gochujang every year she goes.
Yeah. Mine is from Korea.
That and miso-garu.
Yeah, people go to Korea and they buy clothes. I go to Korea and I buy food. So that's 1/2 cup of gochujang. And we're gonna put about 1/2 cup of vinegar. Now I love sour. If you don't like sour, don't put that much in. But I just love sour. So you can put a 1/4 cup, you can put a 1/3 cup, but I'm probably gonna put about maybe a little bit less than 1/2 cup, but I could go 1/2 cup and be fine. I love sour. Okay, everybody with me? And then soy sauce. And if you don't like soy sauce, you can use salt. So if you're trying to avoid soybeans, you can put salt in there. But just cut it to about 1/2 or 1/3 of the amount of soy sauce that you're putting in. The soy sauce, I'm gonna put about 3 tablespoons. Again, depending on the saltiness of your soy sauce, you just adjust it. But I'm gonna start with 3, and if it needs more, I can put it in. So 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. Remember, you're seasoning all of the vegetables, all the noodles with this sauce. So it looks like it's salty, but it's really not that much salt. Okay, so what did we forget? The sesame seeds we're gonna put in last, but let's put some water. And you know, some gochujang, when you buy it, it's really stiff and thick. You might have to put more water. If it's already pretty runny, you don't have to put as much water, but I'm gonna put about 2 tablespoons of water, just because I know my gochujang is a little bit thick. And I'm gonna mix it up. Start mixing gently, and it should mix relatively well because you've got a lot of liquid from the vinegar and the soy sauce and the water. The red pepper powder soaks up a lot of the liquid. So as you let it sit there, it actually gets a little bit thicker. So when I mix it for church, I do it the night before. And I think that it's pretty, pretty good thickness. But when I get to church the next day, it's pretty thick. And I always end up adding a little bit more water or vinegar. So do you see the consistency? It looks quite watery right now, but it'll get thicker because of the red pepper
Did you
powder.
do sesame seed oil yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Do you wait? Did you say, or that's sesame seed you wait on, right?
Yeah, you know, on the sesame oil and the sesame seed, you can wait on both of those. Because if you're gonna make the sauce and keep it in the fridge, I probably wouldn't add the sesame oil in there and the sesame seed, because the taste can start tasting a little bit weird.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So just make sure you get the sauce well mixed. Break up all of the gochujang.
Can I do a little input? If you put it in a mason jar and shake it up, it actually works really well.
Great idea, Pam. Thanks. That's great. Now you're gonna taste it. Take a little spoon and taste it. Now it should taste, you should get the sour, brightness of the sour, the sweet, and the spiciness, and some salty. You don't want it too salty, but you should definitely get salty because it has to season all the vegetables.
It's so mewa.
So, Bella?
Oh, it's so good though.
Yeah. So,
I'm just gonna sweat and eat it. It's okay. It'll be the same as church.
I think mine tastes pretty good. But like I said, again, if you don't like garlic, cut the garlic. If you don't like it as salty, cut the soy sauce. Adjust it however you like. And again, when you're mixing it, this is what we do at church all the time. As we're mixing it at church, we have like 3 or 4 people that have good palates. We have them taste it, like Gina will come and taste it, Anna and Sylvia will taste it. And then we always add stuff to it. And then at the end, after we think we've got it right, then we will pour in the sesame oil and sprinkle the sesame seeds on top before it goes out. Okay, so how is your sauce tasting? See, it's already gotten thicker. But it should be runny enough so that it's easy to mix. Because if it's really thick, it's kind of hard to mix with the noodles and the vegetables. But you don't want it too watery either. How's it going? Pam, how's your sauce taste?
It's very good. I like it. It's perfect.
Like it?
Yeah. It's really spicy. It's not too sweet. It's not too salty. So
Great.
we're good.
Okay, let's turn on the heat on the water. I'm going to turn it up to high. And we're going to boil the noodles. The trick to boiling the noodles is not to overcook it. It's just one simple thing. Do not overcook the Jjoylmyun noodles. Okay? Literally, we put it in when the water's boiling. Put it in. We'll wait maybe like 2 or 3 minutes max. Okay? And we will have cold water waiting. So have a big thing of cold water, and so you can dump it in there. And if you have ice, we can use ice later too, because the trick is to cook it, keep it super chewy, wash it, get all the gluten stuff, gunky stuff off of it. And I'll show you how to wash it so it gets really chewier. Okay, so we're gonna boil the water. Is your water boiling? Everybody's water boiling? Thumbs up?
Yes, ours is boiling.
Okay. Bo, is your water boiling?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay, so we're gonna go over to the water. My water is boiling. And now I'm gonna put it in. And I'm gonna stir it around a little bit so that it doesn't stick together.
Hey, Dorothy,
Yes.
does it matter that my noodles are frozen?
Frozen is not preferred, but it's not a disaster because it thaws really quick in the hot water, okay? So if it's frozen, you might have to cook it a tiny bit longer, but I usually leave mine out in the fridge. Even for church, I buy it like 2 days, the day before, and I put it in the fridge overnight so that it thaws. And then in the morning, I'll cut it down to size, put it in a colander until it's ready to boil. So I bought the noodles a couple days ago and left it in the fridge to thaw. Okay, now the water is not even boiling quite yet, but I can check it and see. I like my noodles really chewy, so I could take it out now. And it's not even boiling. I put it into really boiling water. It's not even boiling, just ready to come to boil. But I'm gonna take mine out because I don't like it really hot. So I'm turning it off. And I'm gonna take it to the sink. Oops, it's got hot. Drain the water, hot water. And when you have most of the hot water out, just kind of dump it into the cold running water. Okay, now this is the first wash. Get most of the hot water out of there. Drain it, and I'm gonna refill it with cold water. And I'm gonna get some ice cubes. When you're doing this at home, you can do this. Now throw some ice cubes in the water. And I'm gonna wash the noodles. I know this is like doing laundry. But I'm gonna wash the noodles, and what this does is gets all of the sticky glutinous stuff off the noodles. It also makes it very chewy. And when you make naengmyeon, the cold Korean noodles, you also, this is how you wash the noodles. It's very cold, and all of the stuff is off of there. Grab my colander, and I'm going to get it out of there. And you should have very chewy noodles. Just drain it a little bit. We're gonna bring it back here. Everybody have your noodles? Cameraman's coming. Noodles. And when you take a bite of it right now, it should be really, really chewy. Really chewy.
Good. Mine are super chewy.
Good. Now we're gonna mix everything together. You have a pair of gloves.
Do you have to do it with your hands or can you use tongs?
You could use tongs. I guess I'm, again,
Old school.
I
Okay.
gotta do everything with my hands.
To mix in the love.
Yeah. Okay, hands are a little bit wet, but here it goes. I have my vegetables, which looks like a lot of vegetables, right? Again, I love vegetables. If you don't like as much, you don't have to. You know what? You can just eat the noodles. You can pour the sauce over the noodles, mix it up, put some sesame oil, egg on top. Kids love that. Okay.
Dorothy, encourage the vegetables. You can't just eat noodles.
So when we do it at church, we put tons of vegetables. Okay, so here's the vegetable. Now I'm gonna put my noodles right in there. And if it has a little bit of water, it's okay because the noodle is super chewy. It's gonna start soaking up the water anyway. So there you go. And now you just put the sauce as much as you like. I'm gonna put about, on this, I'm gonna put about half of what we made because like I said, Keith and I are gonna eat it together and I can put more on mine, but I'm gonna try not to make it too hot. So, but put about half. And the reason I just do it with one hand because you can put more of whatever you need. And you should have your sesame oil nearby and your sesame seeds, okay? And more sauce and vinegar if you like. So now I'm gonna start mixing. And just kind of pull it up and mix all the vegetables in. At first it always looks like it's too much sauce, but it's not.
Hey Dorothy, is it?
Yeah.
Are we doing 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons? What do we do for the sesame oil?
For the sesame oil, I like a lot of sesame oil. I don't put it that much in when we do it at church, but at home when I do it for like those 2 portions, I'll probably put like 2 tablespoons, 1 tablespoon per serving. Okay, so it's all, mine's all mixed up real nice. How does yours look? So it's got these vegetables, and the vegetables will shrink right away, especially the cucumbers, the cabbage to a certain degree, the carrots not so much. The pickles already pickled, so it doesn't shrink, but the cucumber and the cabbage.
Hey Dorothy, just a second. Your sound is all distorted, so I don't know if your other device, the sound turned on, or is that just... Woo. Is anybody else getting feedback?
Yeah, I can't understand her at all.
Yeah, you just got a bunch of feedback, so I don't know if your other device turned on, or...
Is the other device? No, it's not turned on.
Ah, I can't understand you. Hold on. What's happening? Okay, try talking again.
Is it bad?
Oh, no, now it's good.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna taste it now. And when you taste it, take a little bit of the noodles with a little bit of the vegetables, because that's how you're gonna be eating it, and try it.
Now I realize why it's good to make it with you.
Huh?
Everybody else is gonna be eating it, and now I'm like, oh, that looks so good. I gotta buy some now.
If it tastes good,
Tastes delish.
sesame oil
Yeah.
and some sesame seeds. Put most of it, save a little bit so you can make it really pretty. I just saved a little bit. We're gonna use it later. So I'm gonna mix in this sesame oil and the sesame seeds. And it's looking really good. And now I'm going to serve it up in a bowl. And you just kind of turn it around and make a pretty little ball of noodles. And you take the vegetables top it off.
When does the egg go in? Do you just do hard
Yep,
boiled?
you got. Are you this far? You got a pretty bowl of noodles. I'm gonna make two, one for Keith and one for me.
How many Weight Watchers points is that?
How many points is this, Pam?
It's Jay.
Is this on the 0 point list?
And now we have two pretty bowls. See? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a little bit of the cucumber that I was using, and I'm gonna, because I wanna make it look pretty. You eat with your eyes. I'm gonna get a little bit of cucumber because green is pretty. Okay, I'm gonna put a little bit on top of this one, a little bit on top of this one. And then the two different kinds of eggs that I did. So this was the one I did in the fry pan and I just sliced. This one I'm just gonna put on one of them. See how pretty that is? And on the other one, we'll put the 6-minute egg that I did, which should have a little bit of a runny middle or kind of a soft middle. Slice that in half, and it's perfect. We'll put that right there. Oh, this one doesn't want to stay. Oops, ah, lost it. Lost the egg. There we go. And then the tiny bit of sesame seeds you saved, you sprinkle it on top. You see that? Everybody show your dishes.
Oh, hold on, still shopping.
It looks gorgeous, Dorothy. I want to see everybody else's dishes.
Yeah, let's see.